Hello, welcome back to Behind the Faders, the live sound channel. Today we touch upon the subject of psychoacoustics a little bit, but before we get into that, a word. 2 weeks ago I put out a video about motivation and discipline, and that video wasn't well received. And while I understand that technical things and mixing tips and all that are more fun to watch than mindset topics, I think it is important to know these things. I mean, if you do this as a hobby or as a little side job, that's fine, fair enough. But if you want to do this for a living, so you want to make this your career for an entire lifetime, then these things are helpful to know. I noticed that a lot in my coaching calls when a technical problem, or what seems to be a technical problem, is actually caused by a mindset problem. Mindset problems are a big part of these coaching calls. So maybe after you watch this, give it a try. I think it's important. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. It is sometimes difficult or even impossible to display all the instrument of a band side by side at the same time all the time. Maybe a jazz trio is not a problem, or any other three-piece is not a problem, but just a classic rock band with two guitars and keyboards playing in a difficult room, so in a boomy little reverberant room, it's a real challenge. So you will not be able to display all these instruments side by side. But what you can do is you can make people believe you do that, or you've done that all through the show. I first came across this concept right at the beginning of my career when I was working for this German PA company, Rock Sound, which was partially owned by the Scorpions. So we worked with the Scorpions all the time, and I got to listen to quite a few of their concerts. And their front of house engineer, Achim Schulze, who's been their front of house engineer for the longest time, I think he retired about last year or so after 50 years doing front of house for the Scorpions. And what he did, oh, and you mustn't forget, back then at the time, systems were really weak compared to today's standard. Not only in power, but also in phase coherence. Low mids were always the problem. Low mids were always a mess, even in big arena systems. And actually, I think you will still find PA systems of that era in some venues up until today. So what he did was at the beginning of each song, and Scorpion songs, as much as any other hard rock song, typically start with a guitar riff. So he would bring up his guitar riff really prominently, make it really pretty loud. And when the vocals kicked in, he would draw them back by a good amount. But nobody noticed because now everybody was focusing on the vocals, and the guitar riff was kind of planted into their brains before, so they would think they would still hear it just as loud as before. That's the basic of this concept, which means, to take this even further, if you feature every little riff or lick of a certain instrument during the song, you will make people think they heard it all the time. Of course, this is easiest if you're the constant front of house engineer for a band and you know the songs inside out, or you have a top 40 band, so you don't know the band, but you know the songs. But even if you don't know the songs, it's possible up to a point, because if you have some musical understanding, you will find patterns that repeat themselves throughout a song. So you might miss them the first time around, but then you can catch them the next time around. And even if it's just three little guitar notes in between two lines of the vocals, if you feature all of this, you really honestly can make people believe that they heard all the instruments the entire time. But here's a little disclaimer. Of course, this only applies to the, let's say, the ordinary listener. It doesn't work for the keyboard player's girlfriend standing next to you and being only interested in hearing if the keyboards are there all the time. She might complain because she didn't hear the keyboards the entire time. But for everybody else, it works fine. Try it. Find out by yourself. And that's it about this topic. So if you have questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. If you have a lot of questions, consider booking yourself a coaching call, even if it's just for 15 minutes or so. If you want to support the channel a little, give me super thanks. And if you haven't subscribed already, I mean, the channel is doing great, but still like 80% of the people watching this are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button. It's just a click, which doesn't cost you anything, and it's so helpful for the channel. See you next week. Bye-bye.